Welcome to my June stash busting video.
So as you may notice, this is not the Fern Flocks YouTube channel. That was my previous channel that was an entire brand. But long story short is that brand was costing me money, but it wasn't making any money. So I decided to close it out. It wasn't an easy decision, but I knew that it wasn't going anywhere, so I had to just break up with it. But I believe this video has important context for what I'm going to be making videos about on this channel in the future. So I've decided to repost it with this little disclaimer, so just know that this is the old, there will be new, but this has important context for what's to come.
I'm honestly not sure that this month needs a whole video per se because I made a hat. A single hat. Just one hat. So that's something I kind of do to myself a lot, where I start too many projects at once, or I have multiple going at the same time, and then I can never seem to finish any one of them in any kind of like timely fashion. And I think that's pretty common in like fiber art world people. I know I'm not the only one that has this going on. So I don't know, I think something for me would be maybe I just need to kind of set aside some of them and then really go to town on one of them. So maybe I can actually get something completed in a month, like something to show for all of the time that I spend working on projects. So yeah, maybe I just need to reconfigure that whole situation. I think though kind of why it happened this time was I was working on that checkerboard sweater for my sister for so long, and I was very like diligent about not letting myself start another project because I wanted to get that finished for her so I could give it to her. So I saw all of these patterns and like looking at my stash yarn and like all the things I wanted to do with it. So I just went and started a bunch of stuff. Like right as soon as her thing was done, I just went to town on a bunch of different things. I can't really blame myself for that because I've always got ideas of things that I want to make, and finally letting myself start something, I would just kind of started a bunch of things. And I don't think it's wrong to have multiple projects going at once because different projects have like a different purpose, you know? Like a knitting project, a crocheting project. You get tired of one, you switch to the other. Or you have a project that the stitches and the pattern is very complex and like challenging and exciting. You're learning something new, and then you just have projects where it's like you're just cranking along, like, you know, those are perfect for sitting down and watching some TV and just kind of moving along. And there's also, you know, like the travel projects or like something that's you could bring with you somewhere. They're very compact and mobile. You don't have, you know, 8 different balls of yarn that you got to carry around with you to make the thing. Maybe I just need to be okay with the fact that things might not get done as quickly because there's all of these different types of projects that I always have going on. So it's, yeah, figuring out my own brain and how it works is weird.
So today is June 11th, not quite halfway through the month here, and I have started a few things and actually almost finished one. So this last weekend we went camping and it was much colder than expected. Not ideal temperatures for sleeping outside, so I had brought in a different project, the cardigan I've been working on, and I decided to use some of that yarn to make myself a hat. This is the Columbia Slouch from Designs, and I think so. I have quite a large head, and maybe it's somewhat oddly shaped, but I struggle with hats sometimes. Especially with like slouchy hats, and I think, so you can kind of see here, I ended up just rolling it over. So what I think I might do is rip back to where it rolled over and just pick up stitches and knit like a, I haven't decided yet if I want to do like a 2x1 rib or a 1x1, but I think I'm just gonna put a rib at the end, at the bottom here, rather than wearing it slouchy. And Tucker's moving my camera. But this isn't quite done yet because I do want to rip that back and add a ribbing. So, almost done with this one. The other one that I started while out camping this weekend is a sweater. This is the back panel, and I've got a little ways to go on it yet before I start binding off for the neck and working the shoulders, but this is the Magic Hour sweater from Two of Wands. Yeah, so that's this one. The last project that I have started in June. I broke open that bag of yarn that I found at Goodwill that I showed in my previous stash videos, and it's this Tweedy blue yarn. So I've actually, worked up the first panel, and as I was working on it, I noticed like there was a lot of like unevenness in the ball. Like I just worked from the ball like I found it in the bag from the thrift store, and there was a lot of unevenness in the winding, and then there was like, broken pieces of yarn, and like it's resulted in some unnecessary weird ends and stuff. So I just thought like, hey, why don't I just pull all this out of the bag and wind it up on my ball yarn winder, just so I can get, like a nice even cake of yarn to work from, just to make this a lot smoother and a lot simpler. So these balls were 2 strands of this really light weight, like I'm guessing this is, it's pretty close to fingering, maybe somewhere between like a fingering and a sport weight, but it was 2 strands were wound together in this ball. It was already worked with 2 strands in whatever this person had made previously that they frogged, which for what I'm working on, that's what I was intending to do with it anyway. So I figured I'll just wind these up as they are, and it'll be good. I'll just have, like nice uniform cakes to work from instead of, pulling from a ball that just takes off and rolls across the floor. My goodness. Winding up this yarn was an absolute marathon. Lucky for me, it was a wool yarn, so I was able to felt together a lot of the ends, but it was continuous, constant. Each ball had multitudes of split pieces. But yeah, felting together all of those ends while I got a mosquito bite camping this weekend right here was a lot of fun. But anyway, now I have, let's see, these 3 pretty good sized cakes, and I already have 1 panel worked up, one of the front ones. So this little handful of schnivelly bits is all that's left from making those 3 cakes, so I'm going to add it to my drawer of little schnivels. So as far as the math, here we go. I started June with 46,158 grams, which, was over 100 pounds, somewhere along those lines. I was able to take off 100 grams for this little yellow panel. I was able to take off 80 grams for this hat. And I was actually also able to share some of the yarn that I had that I didn't really have a project in mind for with a friend from Instagram that saw that I had this yarn in one of my videos. And so she's like, hey, I have a long-term project that I've been working on that uses this yarn, so if you're not going to use it, I'll take it, like I'll buy it from you. So I actually shipped that out to her last week, and I was able to take 680 grams off of my stash. So the total amount I'm able to take off for June is 860 grams. So to do the math here, 46,158 minus 860, big dent, I know, is 45,298, which equals around 99.9 pounds. So we're under 100. Like, maybe it's just gonna be baby steps. Maybe that's how this goes. I mean, maybe July will be better too. I've got a couple different projects like in the works already that will hopefully be close to being done by the time the July stash busting video comes out. June was not terribly impressive, but we'll get there. I've got a couple other ideas that will use up quite a bit of yarn too coming up. So we're under 100 pounds. Here's to June. Cheers. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and let me know if you decide to start any of these projects that I'm also working on. Leave me a comment. Well, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.